We've all heard the promise of autonomous vehicles, right? A future with safer, smarter transportation. But right now, that whole revolution is kind of stuck in a massive political traffic jam. You've got this urgent need for progress on one side and some really deep concerns about public safety on the other. So let's unpack a potential solution that asks a pretty radical question. What if we've been trying to solve the wrong problem this whole time? And this is really what it's all about. This is the vision Senator Ted Cruz laid out during a recent Senate Commerce Committee hearing. And it's an incredibly compelling goal when you think about it. A future where autonomous vehicles, or AVs, help us finally get rid of the number one cause of traffic accidents, plain old human error. And this is why that vision is so incredibly urgent. Around 40,000. That's the tragic number of people who die on U.S. roads every single year. And the data doesn't lie. The vast majority of these deaths are caused by things like distracted driving, drunk driving, tired driving, mistakes that a machine is designed never, ever to make. Okay, but this is where we hit a major roadblock. On one side, you have this big push for a clear national set of rules to get this life-saving tech on the road faster. But on the other, you have a really important warning from Senator Cantwell about the risks of, as she put it, letting companies beta test on our roads with no guardrails. And that exact tension, that push and pull between progress and caution, is what's created total gridlock in Congress. And you know, that gridlock isn't happening in a vacuum. It's fueled by some very real, very tough problems. You've got this messy, fragmented patchwork of state laws that makes it impossible for developers to know the rules. There's a serious lack of trust, not just from the public, but from regulators too. A lot of the tech we have now leans way too heavily on fragile systems like GPS. And all the while, competitors around the globe, especially China, are racing ahead to set their own standards. So if the current approach just isn't working, what if the answer isn't just about making the car smarter, but about making the infrastructure it drives on smarter? This is where a totally new concept comes into play, one that shifts the focus from the vehicle itself to the actual ground beneath it. It's a foundational technology, and it's called the living ground mesh. The big idea here is a fundamental shift in thinking. The living ground mesh, it's not another app, it's not a new sensor for your car, it's about building smarter infrastructure from the ground up. I want you to imagine a network of nodes, actually in the ground, that creates this incredibly precise grid for spatial awareness. And here's the kicker. It doesn't need to phone home to a remote server, or even rely on GPS to work. So how does this whole thing actually work? Well, think of it almost like a nervous system for the road itself, and it's always running this four-step loop. First, the nodes are constantly sensing everything around them and checking all the data. Second, they compute any potential risks right there, on the spot, in milliseconds. Third, they communicate that critical hazard info to all the other nodes, so they have this shared collective intelligence. And finally, and this is so cool, if a node ever fails, the network is built to self-heal, instantly rerouting the information so it never stops working. And hey, this isn't just some concept on a whiteboard. This technology is actively being developed by T.L.Tedford Enterprises. They're an American company, and their entire mission is building this kind of tough, infrastructure-grade resilience. You know, taking amazing technology out of the lab and putting it to work in the real world. So, the big question is, how does a foundational technology like this actually help bridge that political divide we were talking about? Let's connect the dots here, linking it directly to those specific concerns we heard in the Senate hearing, and see how it doesn't just meet, but could actually exceed the original vision for AVs. This chart really lays it all out, doesn't it? Remember that patchwork of state laws? Well, the mesh creates one uniform national safety baseline for everyone to build on. Problem solved. Worried about relying on fragile GPS? This whole system is designed to work perfectly without it. Scared of beta testing on public roads? The mesh provides this verifiable layer of ground truth that, as its creators say, refuses false certainty. I love that. And what about that global race with China? Well, a technology like this could position the US to set a brand new global standard. And look, these ideas aren't just theoretical. This is a classic example of bringing technology that's been battle-tested home to solve civilian problems. The whole mesh architecture has been proven in some really demanding real-world situations, like the Royal Navy's Eagle's Eye trial. That trial proved that this kind of decentralized network is incredibly tough and resilient, even in the middle of a contested military environment. So here's the really big takeaway. A solution like this doesn't just try to fix today's problems. The whole point is to exceed that original vision of saving lives on our roads. It's about creating a new, more equitable, and way more resilient global standard for what infrastructure can even be. And the vision behind this technology is it's huge. It's designed for what the source material calls planetary benefit. The goal here is to give the same level of safety and connectivity to absolutely everyone, everywhere, whether you're in a big city or a remote village, a disaster zone, or any other underserved community. And this is where the whole idea gets so much bigger than just self-driving cars. We're talking about creating a national backbone for communication and navigation that's true infrastructure-grade resilience. It's about taking those principles proven on the battlefield and applying them to everyday life. It's about creating a system that really serves everybody, making sure that fairness and access are baked in from the very beginning. Which leaves us with this one final, powerful question to think about. After all these years of focusing almost exclusively on making the vehicles smarter, maybe the real breakthrough for a safer autonomous future isn't about building smarter cars at all, but about finally building smarter roads.